Tell us if you got the message. We have a video from Arvel, so we're going to look at that.
Welcome to everyone at the Center of Universal Light. I send you my blessings from Weston, Vermont tonight. I like telling people that I'm from Cottonwood, Arizona. It's good to have a home base. But you know, it's really more than that, because it's like having a family of community now that I'm connected with both emotionally and spiritually. I think this is something that all human beings want. My friend Johanna recently described it this way: we at CUL are your immediate family, but the rest of the world is your loving extended family as well. And I want to thank all the light keepers, or as I like to say, the spiritual warriors for the Center of Universal Light, who are holding the space while Kimberly and I are gone, for healing, for love, for support of all who are in transformation. I know you do it as much for yourself as you do it for the community and the planet as well. Please give all of our guest speakers your love and support as they bring their message of universal love and planetary transformation to us. 3 weeks ago, I led a ritual ceremonial smudging for the congregation. Today, I'd like to answer the question, why do we smudge? The burning of sacred fires, herbs, and incense for purification has been done by many cultures and traditions around the world for centuries. Here in North America, the North American Indian use what is called smudging. And they use it to help build a bridge to higher realms and to clean and clear the air of emotional and spiritual negativity from a space or a person. Sometimes smudging is done before a ceremony or a gathering just to clear the air. Now, the spiritual benefits of smudging might be viewed with skepticism by some, but the health benefits of smudging have been proven by science. You see, as it turns out, smudging actually does clean the air. It does this by neutralizing the positively charged ions in the air and replacing them with negatively charged ions, much like a waterfall or a moving stream of water does. And it has bacteria-killing and antiseptic properties as well. Research that has drawn information from over 50 countries and 5 continents dating back to ancient times shows that the administration of medicinal smoke was used to aid in the lungs, the brain, and the skin. The fumes, as a byproduct, help to act as a powerful antiseptic air purifier. Research also has shown that the treatment of a medicinal smoke in a closed room for 1 hour kills up to 94% of airborne bacteria, and this can last up to 24 hours. In India, Asia, Africa, Australia, China, the burning of medicinal herbs and plants has been used to invigorate the chi in the body and eliminate certain pathogenic influences. It seems that the ancient burning of powerful herbs was more than a primitive practice. Our ancestors must have known intuitively of its many benefits. Thank you. I'm Reverend Arvel Berg. I'll see you soon.
CUL Kids has kids training. Was yesterday and the day before that. Great. Can we have those people stand up that actually took the class? Also, we have sign up in the back too. These are also our warriors as well for kids. CUL Kids begins September 10th. And the choir finally sings. Yay! So you get to do that as well. All this good stuff is happening.
I just wanted to say a few things about the pleasure it gives me, and I know anybody else who does it, and how it's a tradition that's been worldwide. You know, people used to make sacrifices, and now we've moved up to flowers to show our appreciation. And it's, you know, from India through the United States, Japan, and you can do some very simple things, you know, like the 3 flowers in Japan. They have the ikebana, and you have one represents heaven, one represents the humankind, and then the lowest one represents nature. And you can also bring a plant from home. They'd probably love to come here and be part of the celebration. And I noticed on the volunteer opportunities that have been back there at the information desk that somebody had put down flowers, balloons. So apparently, you know, we could bring in some balloons. They're only $1 a piece at the Dollar Tree. And I thought perhaps I'd speak with Arnold and Kimberly, and maybe people could bring in a little piece of statuary or something that's special to them that might go with the theme or something. You know, it can be any kind of an offering. It's part of this reciprocity that I've been learning about with, well, I haven't done some idea of it before, but with this Pachacuti Mesa tradition, that it's giving back. You know, Earth produces these beautiful flowers, and to show our appreciation, we bring them to give back, to offer to the divine, the light that shines within us all. So I just want to encourage everybody to think about bringing something to give back. All right? Thank you.
And tomorrow is Yogamama G's birthday. My significant other. Very happy to see her happy. Okay, this is a note from Two Bears. She's one of our grandmothers, part of our family. Layer upon layer of living, breathing, and being is the great mystery of heaven and earth. Our days are surrounded with mundane chores, entangled in ordinary, focused steps. But surrounding each moment are gifts of the extraordinary within the daily doings. We are illumination in the midst of common task. And we are here to bring enlightenment to what is presented along our personal path. It is up to us to gather wisdom from the deepest core values, weave secret threads of our inner strength, and stand in our luminance. Let us breathe in every bright particle of our most authentic radiance. Thank you, Grandmother Two Bears. Thank you.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the troubles come? Why should my heart feel alone and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, A constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on His sparrow, and I know He watches me. Don't let your heart be troubled. His kind words I hear, and trusting on His goodness, I lose all my doubts and fears. I hold my Lord to me. A constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eyes on the sparrow, yeah. And I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. Whoa, 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 His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on that sparrow, and I know He watches
Good morning, everyone. Doesn't he just, his voice when he sings and his heart that comes out so beautifully, doesn't he just open you right up? Yes. It's really wonderful. He's down here. So, I am so excited to be here. Thank you all for coming and wanting to hear what I have to say as well as participate in this amazing center. So I am going to do this time. Okay. When I get talking, I forget time, so I have help. So, how many of you have been feeling some intensity over the last few weeks? Pretty high, huh? So we're going to talk some about the eclipse, and we're going to use the eclipse as a metaphor for the light and shadow, the play of light and shadow in our lives. That intensity probably isn't going to go away right away, so learning to go with the flow of that and reap the harvest that we can from that intensity is what's in order for us now, because our goal is to transcend all of that intensity and just be the intense beings of light and love that we are. So that play of light and shadow in our day-to-day lives can be really fascinating. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be an intensity that intimidates us. This week, we've had the opportunity to witness one possibility of what that play can look like when the shadow eclipses the light. How many of you know what it feels like to have your light eclipsed? We all experience it at one time or another. It's actually a very natural phenomenon, just like the eclipses. It comes and it goes. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So I just wanted, we'll talk about that in a moment. The eclipse, and Reverend Arvo was talking about this too. There's so much beauty in the science that happens when science and spirituality start to connect. We're seeing it more and more in our day-to-day lives. And the phenomenon of the eclipse was as much a scientific phenomenon as it is a spiritual phenomenon. Do you all get that? Yes. Did you feel it? Yes. That feeling throughout that entire day was really magnificent. And the potential, unlimited potential that we could feel in the awe of that experience was palpable. And that we can take with us into every experience of every day, which ultimately we have one experience, we learn something from it, we never not know that again. And we can use that, move it forward in each and every experience that we have. And that just expands the learning and it expands our energy at the same time. So, having said all of that, we are going to get more into that, but I do want to get a sense. Some of these questions I think I already know the answer to, but I just want to ask a couple of questions. Would it be fair to start by saying that everyone in this room is on a spiritual journey? Yes, that's kind of a given. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here. How many are relatively new to this journey, or just beginning to explore? Some of you have been in it for years, and some decades, I'm sure. So, how many of you would like to see maybe a little faster progress than you're seeing on that journey? How many of you are just plain tired of it and just want to be at the destination? Yeah, it feels like the decades I know in my journey, there have been moments where I'm like, man, are we ever going to get there? So one of the things that support the play of light and shadow in our lives is that very frustration. How do we, or why is it that things aren't moving in the way that we know is possible? We've learned all of these incredible pieces of wisdom. We've taken in all these pearls throughout all the experiences that we've had. And yet we're still plugging along. And so having an understanding of what it is that keeps us from simply just being that pure place of light. We know who we are. We know it in every cell of our body. And there are still moments when we forget. So we all have the intentions to grow, to expand, to open up our hearts, to be pure love. And that's a great intention. It's a beautiful intention, and it's the highest intention that we can live with. And as we move forward, is it possible to actually speed that up and just dive in and stand in our power in every moment of every day with every breath that we take? What happens to us when our light is eclipsed? How we respond to that eclipsing of our light, that natural process that is there to show us more about who we are. That is critical, our response to that. So an interesting metaphor that has come up for me recently to help talk about this a little is actually the game of tennis. Now you may be thinking, what? She's talking about tennis? That's not very spiritual. But there is something, there are, everything in life is a metaphor for our journey. So I had never played tennis before. I was in college. It looked good. I had to do a physical education fulfillment thing. So I said, okay, I'll do tennis. So I took the tennis class, learned a little bit, and then after that, I couldn't find anyone to play with. So my desire to play tennis just kind of faded away with the fact that I wasn't playing anymore. But recently, I've decided to take it up again, 40 plus years later. And my intellectual memory wasn't quite what I'd hoped it might be. And neither was my body memory, my physical memory of the skills and the positioning and the moves and all that. So it's been challenging. And in that challenge, what I have found is that I'm learning more about my life than I am tennis, actually, which is okay, because I can use what I'm learning. But there is a physical component to any game that we play. There's the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual component. So the physical component is really looking at our relationship to what we focus on. In this case, there's the ball, there's the racket, there's my body, there's the positioning and all of that. What is my relationship to the ball? What is my relationship to the racket? What is my relationship in space and time to all of that? Because especially in tennis, the space and time piece is really critical. There's specific timing. Do you hit the ball when it's high? Do you hit it when it's low? Where do I need to stand in order to make that happen effectively and to get the results that I want to see on the court and in my life? So physically, there's all of that going on. Mentally, there's skills, there's all kinds of aspects, information about how to actually implement those skills. There's lots of that going on that you have to keep in mind. And then emotionally, there's my desire to do it right. The old ego comes in and says, well, you're not doing a very good job here, so judgment comes in, and then there's that spiral that happens. So all of that emotional stuff, what I'm learning is that needs to be translated into focus. When the emotional, when the judgment, when any of those emotions come up, they actually take away my focus from where I need it to be. They separate me from myself, they separate me from the ball. I can't keep my eye on the ball if I'm judging myself. It just doesn't happen. So in our lives, when we know that we're not in alignment, when we know that we've separated from source, basically, that recognition is some of the most powerful energy that we can have, because that recognition then gives us a choice. When we live our lives on default mode, we don't really have a choice because we don't recognize that what we're doing is not getting us the results that we want. The moment we recognize that, it's like, yeah, okay, I didn't get it this time, but next time I can choose differently. So spiritually, what's the spiritual connection with tennis? Well, what I'm learning is that alignment rules. The more aligned with Source I am, the more the other stuff just kind of falls into place. And so when I can get out of the judgment, self-judgment, when I can get out of the the desire to do it right, then I end up doing the right thing because I'm aligned with Source. And there's a big difference between doing the thing right and doing the right thing. And sometimes we tend to want to do the thing right based on some system that that doesn't necessarily support unification, that is designed to be separate. So really all I have to do when I can be aligned with Source, all I have to do is keep my eye on the ball and go for it. So it's been said, and some of you have probably heard this, that life is a game. So in the game of life, if we use tennis as a metaphor, we've got the racket is a tool for life. It's something that we can use to support us in getting what we're looking for. The ball is whatever it is that we're choosing to focus on to win our game or to get the results that we want. So with that, again, looking at the relationship that we have between what we're focusing on, where we are in our own process and honoring that process. I'm still learning. So patience is a definite asset. Because when I can be patient with myself, like I would a small child, and say, oh, you're just learning to talk. You can't get the right words all the time. You're just learning to walk. You're going to fall down once in a while. That's okay. I'll support you and help you get back up. So when I can be in that mode, rather than judging myself, I can stay aligned and move forward with it. So as I said, how we respond in space and time, inwardly and outwardly, to what is thrown at us in our lives makes the difference in our experience of everything that we do. There's a lot that gets thrown at us. Sometimes those balls go way out of bounds and we can't get them. That's okay. There's another ball that's right in line and we can just go for it. So I just find that it's a really interesting analogy, and how focused are we on our ultimate goals in any given moment? Are we allowing some of the emotional stuff, ego, judgment, doubt, to distract us and take our eye off the ball? Whatever it is that we're focusing on, that's good information as well. Are we in unified harmony with the flow of energy in each moment, or are we separate from that harmony? So the reaction that we have is key. And I never liked algebra when I was in school. I never understood the value of it. But I did figure out that what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. And that's what makes it work. So every equation has a given, every equation has a variable. And then there's the outcome, which is what's on the other side of the equal sign. So the little equation that I made up to support me in my response ability is S plus R equals O. S is the situation, that's the given. Whatever ball comes at us, whatever situation is thrown at us or comes our way, that's the given. We can accept that. Plus R is our response to that situation. Response is the variable. There are many responses that we can have to anything that comes our way. How we choose to respond to that will determine what the outcome is. And if we're not liking the outcomes that we're getting, then possibly we can kind of review our response to whatever situation we're in and take a look at what else might be possible. How can I tweak my perspective and try something different? Because if you always do what you've always done, you know what the rest of this is? You always get what you've always gotten. So when we're not getting what we want, we're not getting the results, we don't feel it, whatever it might be, taking a look at our response can really help. So whenever we learn to play a game, whether it's the game of life or some other game, it's really important to know the rules of the game. a lot of the rules that we thought we knew about living our lives here aren't necessarily the highest evolution of where we're going. So when we break down everything, we see that all life, us, all matter, everything that's here is basically energy. So learning the rules of energy, how spirit enlivens our bodies, what is that, the universal laws, having a sense of all of that is really like finding the lost handbook of the manual to life, because everything is energy, everything is frequency. And when we start understanding that our frequency determines how we respond, it determines what we get, it determines our outcome. That's ultimately that's the variable in the equation of life. So like a Rife machine. Are you familiar with Rife machines? Yeah, it's figured out, or Rife figured out what vibrations, what frequencies are promote healing and what frequencies promote disease. So we can be once, and we're here to feel. We're here to not just learn, but to feel and to learn viscerally. And as we learn viscerally, we understand the frequency, the vibrations of different responses that we have, different reactions, everything that's going on. And once we feel and learn all of the vibrations of those feelings, then we can use that information to insert what we really want. So if we have an equation and we take compassion out of the equation, then what's on the other side of the equal sign is going to have no compassion. If we put fear on one side as a variable, what's on the other side will have fear. And if we are here to be love, then it's really important that everything that we do, we use love as that variable. We come from that place of love, so that the outcome will always have love in it. And it's just a simple way of fine-tuning the process. That's all we're doing here. But the more we're willing to feel and tune into what that vibration of that emotion feels like, then we can say, okay, this one, my body, my mind, my spirit is saying, no, this feeling is not a vibrational match for my soul, for the light that I am, for the truth of who I am. So we simply choose another vibration. And we felt the whole gamut. So we know how to insert love. We know how to insert compassion and replace the vibrations that don't serve us to ones that do. So it's through feeling that we integrate the learning. And integration is key. We can learn, we can study, we can read all the books that have ever been written, but if we're not integrating that into our lives, we're not seeing a difference from it. Matt Kahn said that the unformed spirit has taken the formed body to escort, taken on the formed body to escort matter, enlivened with spirit, through the process of spiritual awakening. So our souls, our spirit, already know what it is to be awake. We have it in us viscerally, we're programmed for that, and that program is waking up. But our bodies are denser than our spirit, than our mind, than even our emotions, and it takes a little longer. So really honoring the process of our body to move through this process in a way that is different than our mind and the rest of us move through. We want to move through physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, all in balance. Ella Fitzgerald did a commercial, a Memorex commercial. I don't know if you remember it. And she was singing, and she was next to a big grand piano, and there was a wine goblet on the table. She sang this amazing note. I bet Ken could do this. She sang this amazing note, and the glass started to shake. She held that note, and the glass shook more. She held it even stronger, and the glass ruptured. It just burst. That's a breakthrough. That's what happens when we sing our note, when we hold our note, and we stand in our power. Everything around us has to entrain with that, because that's one of the laws of the universe. The strongest energy wins.